Hey guys, it's XX20 here. We are almost at the release of the Nintendo Switch 2, along with a new Mario Kart game that has already been revealed since the first look of the console, Mario Kart World. After over 10 years, we finally got a new Mario Kart game on the home console, but this won't be the usual game we know. This time, Nintendo is going full open world for this one. Yes, an open world Mario Kart game. But in this video, I'm not going to talk about the game. Instead, I'll be focusing on the retro tracks that were brought back in Mario Kart World and sharing my thoughts about it before the game is released. The reason why I wanted to focus on the retro tracks is because they are the best part of the franchise. For the characters and game features, I would say that for another time after the release date. Before we continue, 23.1% of you guys subscribed to my channel, but 76.9% didn't. So if you enjoyed this video, please give a like and subscribe so you don't miss another video or two. So that in the way, let's get to this video. Now we all know that retro tracks are the most traditional thing in Mario Kart games since the DS. For those who don't know, retro tracks are the type of Mario Kart tracks from previous games that were brought back in recent ones. Usually they were placed in different cups separated from the new ones: Shell Cup, Banana Cup, Leaf Cup, and Lightning Cup. But Mario Kart World breaks this trend and instead places the new and old tracks together in one cup. Like the Flower Cup, for example, has all retro tracks, or the Star Cup has 3 retro tracks with only 1 nitro. I'll be talking about what are the retro tracks that return in this game in order and share a bit of my thoughts about it. Starting with the SNES tracks, this time all the variant tracks from the first game are now combined into one, similar to the toy tracks from the BCP. SNES Mario Circuit has returned once again as a combination of Mario Circuit 1, 2, and 3. I wasn't really a fan of the SNES Mario Circuits since the last remakes looked the same as the original versions. At least this one is more improved. But the only downside is, where is Mario Circuit 4? In all the SNES tracks, Nintendo, you decided to bring all the Mario Circuit tracks back, but not including Mario Circuit 4? Why? Just why? I assume the reason why they didn't include it is probably because they couldn't fit it anywhere in this track, since it has a bigger layout than other variants. But still, I wish they could bring that back instead of all 3 variants combined. SNES Koopa Beach is another SNES track that came back as a combination of Koopa Beach 1 and 2. Koopa Beach 2 was brought back in Mario Kart DS and then later in Mario Kart Tour. But Koopa Beach 1 on the other hand didn't make a reappearance. There isn't any gameplay showing this track besides the photos as shown or the gameplay of the intermission, so I'll leave this one aside for now. Moving on with the N64 tracks, the first one is Choco Mountain, which returned in Mario Kart DS, Tour, and finally in the Wave 1 of the Booster Course Pass. Once again, this track was brought back, but it was way different than we know before. They turned this whole track into some kind of industrial area. When I first saw this, I thought it was just a new track that I'd never seen before, but it's just Choco Mountain with an unrecognizable design. I don't know how I should feel about this, whether I like the industrial design or prefer the old design with the brown blocky cliffs due to the nostalgia. But I'll just go with the industrial version since it looks way better because the original didn't feel special than before. The second N64 track that's brought back is Warrior Stadium. For almost 30 years, this track has finally been brought back with a new upgrade. The original version was just a big stadium with many bumps and a giant ramp you could jump off. In Mario Kart World, it was way different. This one has more bumps around the tracks and the giant ramp is changed into an elevated bridge, which is way better to jump off. The only thing that I think was a bit of a downside was the track layout. This version of Warrior Stadium was shorter, cutting out half of the track from the original version. At first, I didn't like this change, but when I realized that the original was way longer, it kinda makes sense. I mean, what are you going to do when you waste your time driving on a straight line? But for now, this is just my opinion about it. Moving on to the GCN tracks with Peach Beach. There isn't much to say about this one, but I love the drastic change this has compared to the original version. Not many details, but the only thing that I can find is that giant pitch arch is now replaced with a bridge. But I'll leave it there for now. For Dino Dino Jungle, this one really surprised me because it doesn't feel like a jungle anymore. Instead, it feels like they pulled something from a Jurassic Park movie. The track has been changed into a laboratory with additions of more dinosaurs as obstacles, like the Tyrannosaurus and Triceratops. This is probably the best change of this retro track so far in my opinion. For the DS tracks, I wasn't really a fan of Desert Hills because there wasn't really anything good about it besides being homage to the desert levels from Super Mario Bros. 3. I felt that this was a meh opinion, so it doesn't really make any sense why they brought it back in the first place, where there are other desert tracks that had to make a reappearance, like Dry Dry Ruins. At least the only good detail I noticed is that they added the elements of Super Mario Land with the Battledons, which they hadn't made an appearance for decades. DK Pass was also brought back, and I love how good the revamped track looks, but the only thing I noticed was that they removed the snowman at the end, which was a disappointment. I mean, why get rid of them? They are good obstacles at the end. This version feels empty without them. I mean, it's not like this character was promoted into Racer, right? Right? Anyways, in my opinion, it's still good that this track was brought back in this game. The last DS track is none other than Airship Fortress, which, my god, look how awesome this track looks. People are disappointed that this never returned in the BCP, but now it's finally had the time to shine. There isn't really a lot of changes for this track, but I do love how it looks with the wall redesign of the ship and the interior of it. You know, I'm glad this wasn't brought back in the BCP and was saved for this game, because if it did, we wouldn't have this. Moving to the Wii tracks, the first one is Moo Moo Meadows. I find it strange that Nintendo brought this one back as it returns previously on Mario Kart 8. So why again? There isn't many differences about it because it's kind of similar to the last one, so I'll leave that aside for now. Next is Toad's Factory. Like Wario Stadium, this track is finally making a comeback after 17 years. I love how everything of this track has changed for almost 2 decades. What I love is there are some alternations of this track, like you can perform grinding tricks on the rails, which is a new gimmick of this game. And you could drive on the walls, where you end up driving on an alternate route on the top of the room where the crushers are. For the 3DS tracks, Shy Guy Bazaar is a fun one where you drive around the bazaar at night. But this time, the tracks takes place in daytime, because in this game, the sky can cyclically change from day to night. What I love about this track, it gives many references to Sarasa Land, as shown Daisy Castle in the background, which you could travel inside it in free roam or during the intermission. Warrior Shipyard also returned, and I love what they did for this one. The most notable change was that they got rid of the underwater sections and is replaced with ski mechanics, which you could drive on the water. A bit of disappointment, but still a good change in my opinion. Besides that, I also love the rest of the changes where the wall setting gives more of a darker vibe, and I love the addition of the rain effects, which makes the track more eerie to the theme. Finally, we come to Sky High Sunday. Before this, I wasn't really fond with this track since it's just a blank course with a lack of textures and details around the obstacle areas. Luckily for Mario Kart World, it becomes more improved and better than we have previously. Anti-gravity was removed since this game does not feature it anymore, and instead you perform rail grinding tricks on the rails instead of that pointless spinning animation. It even adds charge and chucks to make it more hazardous. Interesting note, this is the only track from the BCP as well as Tour to return in Mario Kart World. I still wish they could have brought back Piranha Plant Pipeline. And that's all my thoughts about the retro tracks before the release of Mario Kart World. Overall, most of the tracks look good. If I pick a top 3 of my favorite tracks so far, 3 is Warrior Stadium, 2 is Airship Fortress, and 1 is Dino Dino Jungle. One thing I wanted to point out is that I noticed that none of the tracks from the GBA or the Wii U didn't make a reappearance. The Wii U's make sense since most of the tracks have involved a lot of anti-gravity mechanics, which were not in Mario Kart World. And for GBA's, I don't know why, but I assume the reason being was maybe due to the track layouts being too small, or they just couldn't fit it in an open world. Once the game is released, I'll probably make an update video changing my thoughts about the retro tracks, and maybe someday talk about the new tracks and characters and so what. Speaking of, how much does the game cost? Oh. Well, I'm sure the console isn't too expensive. What in the f? Anyways, what are your thoughts about these retro tracks coming back? If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, make sure you like and subscribe for more content I'm making in the future. For now, this is Zigzag20, signing out.